morning and welcome. My name is Cindy Walton and I'm the worship associate this morning and part of the team that is working to record and stream this service to you wherever you may be. We are an inclusive congregation that welcomes you as you are, inclusive of all your identities, complexities, and situations. We welcome your whole self, even if it isn't fully assembled, because we recognize that we are each a work in progress and that we are all in this together. The service is also being posted on our YouTube page so that folks can watch it again later. Feel free to share it with your friends. If you would care to join me in saying our opening affirmation, love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. For these high purposes do we unite in worship. We gather to light our chalice to openly declare that love is greater than hate and truth is greater than cowardice, deception, or dishonesty. This we do that we might shape our lives to greatness, come embracing fountain of love and truth, thrive in our reason and passion, fire our lives, our faith, our community.
Welcome. Welcome to this day, to this hour, to this place, to this body. Together, we will answer a call to love. Together, we will create a thing of great beauty. Together, we will find the sacred in the spaces in between. Together, we will worship. Welcome. And now, here's a story for the kids. Come a little closer. Once upon a time, there was a person who traveled for her work, and every day she had to pack up her bag and set out for the next town. But every time that she found herself in a new town on Sunday, she liked to visit the local fellowship to see what it was like. One Sunday, she visited a fellowship and she was welcomed by a very friendly person who offered her a cookie, and another person who showed her where the coffee and tea and the bathrooms were, and who invited her to sit anywhere in the sanctuary during the service. During the service, everyone sang and shared and listened. After the service, she felt quite at home in her body and in her spirit. Before she left, she shook hands with one of the leaders and asked, "Do you know that you have a treasure here at your fellowship?" The leader was surprised by her question and said, no, he didn't know that they had any treasure here. The woman went on her way. But her question burned in the heart of the man she had spoken to. A couple of weeks later, the traveler was in another town, and that Sunday morning, she went to the local fellowship where she was welcomed and offered cookies and coffee and shown where the bathrooms were located, and she was invited to sit anywhere in the sanctuary. And again, the congregation sang and shared and listened, and afterwards, she felt at peace in her body and in her spirit. And again, before she left, she made sure to go shake hands with one of the leaders, and she asked, "Do you know that you have a treasure here in your fellowship?" And again, the leader was surprised by her question, but as she left, he held it in his heart to consider. Now, back at the first fellowship, the leaders gathered to consider the question that the woman had asked. "Do you know that you have a treasure here?" Well, what kind of treasure? What is it? Well, they needed some money to pay for coffee and cookies, and with a treasure, they could buy lots of coffee and cookies. So they started looking for the treasure. They went through all the closets. They looked on all of the bookshelves. They pulled out the books, looked behind them. They went through all of the filing cabinets. No treasure. So they started pulling apart the walls and they started digging up the lawn. Maybe it was buried treasure. No treasure. People were starting to get frustrated. They started to fuss at one another. They were so busy digging and breaking things open that they didn't have time to eat cookies anymore, and then they didn't even have time to sing anymore. So they just stopped with the listening and sharing. Get busy, go find that treasure. One Sunday morning, they all got really busy and they started dismantling the whole building, including the sanctuary, to find this treasure. And they moved all the chairs and the pulpit outside, and they busted up the chancel, and they got a jackhammer to start breaking up the floor to see if anything was buried underneath. When they found nothing, they were all pretty fed up, and they all went their separate ways. Meanwhile, at the second fellowship, the leader considered the visitor's question. Do you know you have a treasure here at your fellowship? He brought that question to the other leaders, and together they pondered. They figured that if a visitor could see it, they could probably see it too. What was the treasure? They looked around their building. It wasn't very fancy, but they had built it together. It had been a lot of work, and they'd really enjoyed working on it, and they'd all gotten to know one another better while they were doing that, and they agreed that their building was part of their treasure. And then they considered how many cookies they always had, and one or two people always baked the cookies for everyone else to share, and it was such a kindness. The cookies were definitely part of their treasure. They all agreed that they loved the feeling of singing and sharing and listening, and they treasured those feelings. And they were happy that even a visitor could see their treasure and share in it. Now, several months later, our traveler found herself back at the first fellowship on a Sunday morning, and she showed up and was absolutely shocked to see the whole place was in ruins. The building was empty, the windows were smashed. She was heartbroken to see the place. She asked a passing person, what happened? The person shared, they had some conflict over a treasure. Oh dear, how sad. They had all been such loving, generous people when she'd last seen them. A couple of weeks later, the traveler was back at the second fellowship, and she was relieved to see that their building looked fine, maybe even a little nicer with some fresh flowers planted out in front. As she walked inside, again, she was greeted warmly, and someone explained to them that that morning they were having a special celebration to share our treasure. And just then, one of the leaders recognized her and ran right over to greet her and thank her, and they asked her to join them for more singing and sharing and listening. And afterwards, everyone felt at home in their body and spirit and place, for they had truly found their treasure. Kids, what makes something a treasure for you? Do you think you have treasures that you can share with others? How will you find it? I want you to know I love you. I want you to know I miss you. And I want to know that I'm looking forward to when I can see you again, okay? Next week, we're having the stuffed animal sleepover. So get your stuffed animals ready. They get to spend the night here at the fellowship, and there'll be snacks and stories and songs. We're gonna have a great time. So tell your stuffies they get to come. See you soon.
For the next few months, we'll be taking a moment during each service to learn ideas to help us do the work of learning to be anti-racist. We're starting with introducing the definition and characteristics of white supremacy culture so that we can have a shared vocabulary and ideas to consider. We're drawing upon the works of Robin DiAngelo, Kenneth Jones, and Tima Okun. We'll be posting all of this information in our weekly newsletter as well.
Okay, here we go. only one right way. When white supremacy culture is operating, there is the belief that there's only one right way to do things. And once people are introduced to that right way, they will see the light and adopt it. In that situation, when they do not adapt or change, then we presume that something is wrong with them. The other, those not changing, not with us, those who know the right way. As a result, similar to the missionary who does not see the values of the culture of the other communities, we see only our value in our beliefs about what is good. Here are some antidotes to thinking there is only one right way. We can accept that there are many ways to get to the same goal. Once the group has made a decision about which way will be taken, honor that decision and see what you and the organization will learn from taking that way, even and especially if it is not the way that you would have chosen. We can work on developing the ability to notice when people do things differently and how those different ways might improve our approach. Together, we can look for the tendency for a group or a person to keep pushing the same point over and over out of the belief that there is only one right way, and then name it. Then, when working with communities from a different culture than yours or your organization's, be clear that you have some learning to do about the community's way of doing and being. Finally, never assume that you or your organization knows what's best for the community in isolation from meaningful relationships with that community.
At this time in our service, we recognize the joys and concerns of our community. Here is a candle for the family of Nina Stein. And while the damage that they sustained from Hurricane Laura wasn't as great as others, her brother and his family in northern Louisiana still did sustain damage to their homes from the hurricane. So please hold them in your hearts as they clean up and repair their roofs and fences from fallen trees and water. And this is a candle of sorrow. On Thursday, Christy Fuller learned that her friend Tom Doyle had died suddenly. Tom was incarcerated and was being held at the Iowa Park unit near Wichita Falls. And Tom was a member of the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship. He was a pagan. He enjoyed reading issues of The Sun, which is sent free to incarcerated peoples. He enjoyed reading his UU World and Quest. I visited with Tom. I corresponded with him. I considered myself his minister. He was a person of worth and dignity. And our hearts are heavy as we struggle to make sense of his passing. We struggle to make sense of the suffering he endured while he was incarcerated. If you would like to honor Tom's life, please consider making a donation to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. And I will light one final candle for all the joys and concerns not shared, but still held deeply in our hearts.
If you wish, please join me in saying our mission. Our spiritual community lives courage, nurtures wonder, inspires justice, and includes all.
And now, this week we're going to do something a little bit different. Usually around this time of year, we celebrate our water communion. And so, this week, instead of focusing on our breath, I'm going to ask you to focus on the water that is within you and all around you. All of the water, from the rain and the river and the aquifer. Breath in, breath out. Listen and learn from the water. There is water below us. a deep and quiet aquifer of slow water. Water that took thousands of years to seep through the soil, forming a vast reservoir. There is water rushing all around us, the springs and the rivers that are busily carving out canyons. This water does not stand still, but is rushing along, pulled by gravity and its own yearning to join the ocean. There is water above us. Even on a bright blue fall day, there are clouds coalescing and flying across the sky. This is the water that travels fast, gathered together in an alliance with the wind. Clouds that billow up like fluffy biscuits on the flat pan of the Texas sky, that rise into thunderheads and then drop themselves upon us. We arrive in this world on a wave of water from our mother's inward oceans. And with that wave, we join into the water cycle of this planet, drinking it in, passing it through our bodies, washing and dissolving our hardest pains and problems with the salt water of our tears. Listen. Can you feel the water in you and around you? Can you know how much the water knows you? Can you love the water as much as the water loves you? Blessed be. Amen.
Good morning. This song is called Next to You. know your past has left you broken, that you keep your heart behind the door, your eyes on the floor. I know I'm not the best or worst, I'm just a man who's longing to give in to what our love could be again. If you believe me, then when our story's over, all our races run, and lay our burdens down, I won't regret one moment of our setting sun. Thanks to you, I'm where I am. Next to you, I'm awake and dreaming when I hold your hand.
We have a reading this morning from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and this is an excerpt from a letter that he wrote to his daughter while she was at school. Write it on your heart that every day is the best day in the year. He is rich who owns the day, and no one owns the day who allows it to be invaded with fret and anxiety. Finish every day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely, with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. This new day is too dear with its hopes and invitations to waste a moment on yesterday.
Anyone else feeling a little rusty, a little dusty, a little faded and scuffed these days? Anyone else lost their springtime fresh scent during the hot days of summer? Anyone else noticing how the unused parts of life have gathered some cobwebs, and how some of the overused parts of life are getting a little stale? We've had a few puffs of cool air, but it's still September, which in Texas is really just a lot like August, but with football. The tomato vines are turning brown, and the only plants that seem really happy are the okra. They like the hot. Everything else from the early summer garden has bolted, blossomed, died. It's pretty dusty around here at the fellowship too. The building is just not the same without the people in it, and I think the building is a little lonely. Tiny spiders have cast their invisible webs to keep up with all the little bugs that seem to creep in, and the chairs are stacked and the rooms have strange, sad echoes. We take turns feeding the fish and emptying whatever trash accumulates from junk mail. The staff still comes into work, but some days it feels like we're just pushing air. Where's the energy? Where are we needed? And some of the old, long-standing dissensions and dissatisfactions in the congregation have risen back up because, anxieties in a system just never magically go away. And in congregational systems, even if unhappy people get everything they say they want, if the system expects anxiety, it will find a way to perpetuate anxiety. The only way to change that is to change the system. And The good news is that your congregational leaders are getting really good support from the UUA to chart a way forward. In the Jewish tradition, we are approaching the days of awe and atonement, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The old year ends, the new begins, and each person is asked to return to right relationship with one another and with the holy. The observation of Rosh Hashanah requires blowing the shofar, the ram's horn. It is loud. Each blast shakes up and breaks up any old dust that has gathered. It interrupts any other noise. It interrupts any excuses. It marks the start of the new year, and the new year begins with 10 days to reflect upon and seek atonement and forgiveness with those you might have wronged in the previous year. This might not be your tradition, but it's an excellent exercise in appraisal and accountability. It's a good way to practice how to return and repair and give ourselves a chance to start over and try and get it right this time. What if, with a great blast, you could blow away certain certainties? You could sweep away old grudges and wipe off the dust of disagreements. Where would you turn your efforts first? What would you clean so carefully as to make it new? What needs to be made new again in your life? Our worship theme this month is Renewal, and that's more about library books and magazine subscriptions. Renewal. And given this moment, it's fair if first we ask, how do we make ourselves anew in a time when too many things are uncertain and unknown? And I will answer with care. Renewal is the work of restoring and returning to usefulness the things that might have worn out or seized up. Renewal is not so much about erasure or destruction. It is about attention and repair. And it's not just for things. Renewal can happen in the spaces in between people. Relationships can rust and corrode from disuse or misuse. Unintended harm can stain and strain the very air between us until we seek to be held and held accountable to one another. And renewal is not just for the space in between people. Have you turned your face to the sky or the tree or the river and allowed nature to renew you? Because sometimes renewal will not require anything more than simply allowing yourself to be and be present, fully present with the stars and the wind. Perhaps in those moments, you will notice that the days are shorter. Perhaps you will be present as the winds shift and blow in from the north with cooler air. Perhaps you can't renew all of the things and spaces around you, so start with one corner. What one part of your life is a little worse for wear but might, with enough care, might shine brightly. Who might you call and ask for forgiveness? Is there a person who you have wronged or fallen out with, or simply someone you meant to call or write to? Do it now. Humble yourself to find the treasures in that space between. What part of your physical being might benefit from new attention? Have you obscured your own strength and beauty from yourself with messages of shame or unacceptability? Renew your relationship to your body with the care it asks for. Just enough food, a little more water, plenty of sleep. And then, how might you attend to the God of your understanding, your highest commitments, or that which is larger than the self? Can you accept your inevitable failings, forgive yourself these failings, and then begin again in love? Remember, all that the river asks is for you to fall in. On a practical note, perhaps we can begin with the building, renewing our care of this building, and then together we can attend to the covenant, renewing the agreement of how we will be with one another. What does it mean to consider the needs of the whole over the demands of a few? By cleaning out the windowsills, sweeping up the dead bugs, wiping out the cabinets, picking up the trash that's blown onto the playgrounds, we will make this building ready for when we can gather together again in person. By rereading the covenant written by the members of this congregation and with support from those who would see us flourish, there will be a fellowship worth returning to. By recommitting to the work of finding the holy in and amongst and between one another, we will make this world anew. You might ask, it's fair, how do we make ourselves anew in a time when too many things are uncertain and unknown? How do you make yourself anew in these revolting times? And again, I will answer with care. May it be so. Blessed be.
At this time in our service, the congregation makes its financial offering. If you've made a pledge or would like to make a contribution, you can simply mail it into our office, or you can make it online. There is a donate button on our YouTube landing page and on our website, uuamarillo.org. On the home page in the upper right corner, you'll find a blue donate button that will take you to a place where you can donate securely through PayPal. If you've made a financial pledge for this year, we appreciate very much your keeping up your pledge. While we're not meeting in person, our groups are still meeting. Our adult UU education class meets at 10 a.m. on Sundays using Zoom. The class is covering Unitarian Universalist history. If you're interested in attending this class, please contact Lydia Miller. The Nothing Much Buddhist group meets on Mondays at 7:30 using Zoom. Please check their Facebook for more information. The Summer TED Talk series is continuing. We had such a good time with the series in July that we're keeping going. We now meet on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Our current focus will be talks on racism and anti-racism. You can find the link to the meeting in the newsletter. For more information, please contact Reverend Nell. And now a special announcement for our younger members and their friends. The stuffed animals are going to have a sleepover on September the 11th. Bring your favorite stuffed animal who's not afraid to be by themselves at night and join in with everybody else's stuffed animals for lots of fun and games. It'll all be posted online for you to join in virtually, and you can pick up your animals first thing the next morning. If you've been participating in the congregation or simply watching our services online and are now interested in knowing more about the fellowship or becoming a member, please contact us. We have a Path to Membership program that can meet online or in person. Contact office@uuamarillo.org or call the office at 806-355-9351 and leave a message. And one more time, it's time to thank our tech crew. Larry and John, you have made the summer. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you.
Please join me in Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Please join me as you feel inclined for our closing words. May the fellowship of this hour touch and move our lives until we come again together.
As you head out into this world, please carry these words with you. Find the river and go to it. Step in carefully or fall in. Then rise up, startled and shivering. The water will remind you to make yourself new again each day. Blessed be. Go in peace.